Guys, I'm so happy that you're here with me on the Long Story Short podcast. Last year, we actually recorded the first episode of the Long Story Short podcast, and your episode launched my wonderful podcast. And I'm so grateful and blessed to be able to see you guys again as we now dig deeper into your story of resilience, into your story of triumph, isn't it? And overcoming a personal situation that you guys are going to go through shortly. But before we dive into all of that, I would just love you all to introduce yourself to our wonderful watchers and listeners. If we can first start off with Mr. and Mrs. Stanberry.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Stanberry, and next to me is
Cleveland, Stanberry, and I'll ask Antoinette to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Antoinette Stanberry, and I'll hand it off to my sister.
Hello, my name is Samantha Stanberry, and last but not least is my brother.
I am Clive Anthony Stanberry.
Awesome. And welcome to the Stanberry family. Do you know what I mean? Big round of applause.
Thank
You know,
you.
big round of applause. And one thing is that this is a wow. So I'm recording from London, UK. And Clive Anthony, where are you recording from now?
I'm in New Jersey, in
You're
the
in
United
New
States.
Jersey. Wow. Okay. And Antoinette, Samantha, Mr. Stanberry recording from
The Toronto area, Greater
Toronto.
Toronto area, Canada.
Okay, so this is amazing that we all are here to get together to hear about your amazing story. So my first question is a leading into who are the Stanbury family, because you're here to share your long story short. You have already shared your long story short as a couple, as Mr. and Mrs. Stanbury, but this particular podcast is going to dig a little bit deeper into the story surrounding as to why you all have penned together a book based on a particular situation, which we're going to go through shortly. So my first question is, which I love to ask all of my guests, is who are the Stanbury family?
Well, thanks for asking. And as you talk about a particular book, which I just so happen to have in hand, this particular book helps to explain who we are. So we are a family of five. Together, we have 7 degrees from one university, the University of London. We wrote our first memoir, that is this book, in the winter of 2024. And the book starts out by talking about a very severe illness, which one of our family member had. And as we talk about, I will go through who that was and how we banded together with family and friends, including us. And fortunately for us, the cancer-like illness is now being treated successfully. However, during that entire period, we had challenges, and we had fun, and we had some successes around education, and even successes around finance. So today we are celebrating those successes while we still go through the challenges of life.
Awesome. I think it's such a courageous thing for you to get together as a family to write this amazing memoir, because you are also reliving back that situation, the feelings, do you know what I mean? And, you know, going through, you're like reliving it, even though it's over 10 years ago. And I say it's very courageous for you. But why have you decided as a family, you know, to share your story? And this is for Yvonne. Why have you decided to pen this story and share it with the world?
Okay, so the initial idea to share this story with the world came from Cleveland. So from the start of Samantha's illness, we started to document her journey as we go along, and tried on several occasions before now to start the book, but didn't get a chance to. So now Cleveland was available, have more time on hand, and then we decided to collaborate, and he started writing the book.
It's amazing because I was reading the first part of the book this morning, and I noticed that you can read it within 5 hours. Do you know what I mean? And what is quite interesting, there's 5 family members and you can read it within 5 hours. Do you know what I mean? So is it a chapter per family member type of thing? Is that how you see it, Antoinette, possibly?
Not precisely. I can say the first two chapters really go through Samantha's illnesses, written both by my parents' point of view. And then the latter chapters kind of focuses a bit on everyone's personal experience, like growing up, growing through life. So I'd say it's mostly just not split between each family member for 1 hour, but in a way, I guess you can look at it as though over the course of 5 hours, you read through the life of 5 people.
Mm. I love it because it holds a different perspective, isn't it? Based on the siblings as well as the parents. And, I am encouraging everybody who is listening or watching this podcast is to go out and purchase themselves a copy of this memoir. It's all about you. It focuses on you, isn't it, Samantha? We always hear about anemia. Do you know what I mean? I mean, nearly everybody that I know has got some issue with anemia, low in iron, and etc. So I would like to discuss, and maybe Cleveland could help me out on this. You know what I mean? And as well as Yvonne, I would like you to describe the moment when you first realized that Samantha's health was more serious than you expected.
Okay. I
Okay.
can take that. And really, that moment came when I was holding Samantha in my hand, and she was a 2-year-old toddler then. And the oncologist was talking to me in the hospital at Sick Kids. And I asked her, so this is not cancer, because she had just told me that we don't believe it is leukemia. We did the bone marrow aspirate and we think it is something else. And I said, what's that something else? And she said, it's aplastic anemia. Never heard the term before. And then I said to her, wow, like I said in the book, actually, I said to her, oh, so that is good that it's not cancer. And while holding Samantha, the answer that came back was not the answer I wanted. She said, no. And my knees actually buckled while I was holding Samantha. Unfortunately, that day, Yvonne wasn't at home, at the hospital. She was at home because we were sharing duties. This is the first 2 weeks of Samantha being diagnosed. And that was when I realized that, wow, this is what can be worse than cancer? This is bad. So when she said, no, it's not good, that is not cancer, my next question to her was, but why? And she said, we know how to treat leukemia or cancer. We do not know explicitly how to treat aplastic anemia. And that
Mm.
was a jarring moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a parent, but just hearing those words, do you know what I mean? Must obviously send shivers through your spine, but also thinking about we've got the siblings and we've got Samantha online as well. So I want to hear how it possibly changed or shifted the family dynamic, hearing that Samantha was unwell. How did that, or did it change the family dynamic between the siblings and yourself, Samantha? And you,
Honestly, I don't really think it had a huge impact between myself and my siblings. At the time, I wasn't really of the opinion that I was sick. I didn't really know what was going on. I just thought I had to go to the hospital for extra checkups. But I didn't know the severity of my illness at the time, and I don't believe my siblings did either. I don't have any memories of us, being worried about my illness or being worried that I'm going to the hospital and that I might not come home that day. That was never a fear that we had. It was just like any other day for me whenever I went to the hospital.
so thank you for sharing that, Samantha, because I'm thinking that, as children, like growing up, it's true, we are shielded away from certain things, isn't it? So obviously, mum and dad shield you away from the diagnosis. But Samantha and Antoinette, you guys are twins, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
we
And
are.
which one is the eldest?
That'd be me.
That you're the
I'm 5
eldest.
minutes
Oh,
older.
how many?
5 minutes.
5 minutes elder. Okay, okay. So, they've got this twin thing. Did you have that twin thing, when Samantha was going through her time of going diagnosis and being unwell, Antoinette?
Not in particular. I do remember asking my dad when Samantha and Mummy would come home, because it'd been a few days since I'd seen them, and he said on Sunday after church. And then I do remember going to the hospital and seeing Samantha in the hospital bed. But I didn't feel afraid or scared, possibly because Samantha didn't look sick. She was her normal jovial self. So in that regard, I didn't have like the twin telepathy, as you call it. I didn't really feel her pain. I just missed her and she looked okay.
Oh, I love that. You just missed her. That's so beautiful. And what about yourself, Clive Anthony? What memories do you have during that time?
I remember looking forward to going to the hospital. It was a great time because this was a children's hospital. So they had a lot of video games and toys and things set up. So we would go there, and the room where Samantha was staying, we would play this like Nintendo 64, and we're playing different like Super Mario soccer games. And we didn't own these games, so headed to the hospital was the time, like, okay, this Saturday we're gonna play some video games. So
I love it. So you was looking forward to going to the hospital, and Samantha was like, "Okay, I'm just going to hospital as normal, just as a normal checkup." And Antoinette, you was there just to support your sister, and your brothers and your family. Amazing. But your mother and Mr. Well, I'm not going to say Mr. and Mrs. Stanberry because I'm not that formal. You know what I'm like. Yvonne and Cleveland. You know what I mean? You were definitely shielding your children away from this diagnosis, this illness. But let's talk about aplastic anemia. Is that right? Aplastic?
That's
That
correct.
is correct.
Aplastic anemia. Recently, I was told that, do you know what I mean, that I have anemia, but I've been told that throughout my life. What do? I take iron tablets and everything. So anemia, does that affect the family as a whole? Have you got low iron? Has that been a diagnosis for you all?
No, so no, we don't. And this is the question you ask is one of the reasons, and it's a great question. It's leading into the preface of the book. And it is one of the reasons we have the preface of the book, and all shout out to Clive Anthony because he and I argued over it. And I argued for not doing the preface, and he argued for doing the preface until we sat down in a working session and he just started writing. And we were sharing a Google Doc between us. I could see what he was writing. And he was saying, this is the reason we should have the preface to describe exactly what you mentioned, anemia, so that those who pick the book up can understand the distinction between perhaps three different things. Between anemia, as we know the word commonly, anemia, and you're anemic and your iron level is low, and you can eat liver and take multivitamins and folic acid and B12 and so forth, as opposed to the term aplastic anemia. So we have in the book a table, a wonderful table. I perhaps just show this table here that highlights the difference or the differences between anemia, aplastic anemia, and the similarity with aplastic anemia and leukemia, which is cancer. Aplastic anemia is non-typical anemia, as the term A means, like a typical, not typical. So with anemia, you have normal white blood cell levels, you have normal platelet levels, your red blood cells might be low, most likely would be low. And how is it treated? Oh, you use iron supplements, folic acid, with B12, and some people eat certain food and meats that are rich in iron and vitamins and so forth. With aplastic anemia and leukemia, your white blood cells are low, your red blood cells are low, and an important thing called platelets are low as well. And they are caused because they are low because they're caused by your bone marrow, usually the long bones in your legs, our legs, are not making blood cells properly. And how are they treated? Very similar to each other. So leukemia and aplastic anemia, you can get a bone marrow transplant, or you can use immunosuppressant therapy, And the big difference, there are many others. I'm not a medical expert in any way or shape or form, but this is just something we learned along the way. The big difference with leukemia and aplastic anemia is that in some cases, leukemia is treated with chemotherapy and radiation, whereas in aplastic anemia, chemotherapy or radiation is never used as part of the treatment, but all the other things, blood transfusion, platelet transfusion, immunosuppressant therapy, where you suppress the immune system so it doesn't function at all, those are used to treat aplastic anemia. Whereas in anemia, it's self-help at home. You eat green leafy vegetables to get your iron, and some people eat other things. You were going to say something, Ivan?
Yeah, I think so. Just to add to that, with the differences between, aplastic anemia or acute aplastic anemia, leukemia, and common anemia, we're looking at, the three main parts of the blood. You have the red blood cells, you have the platelets, and you have the bone marrow. And what's interesting is that with anemia, the red blood cells are low, so that's why you might feel tired or weak and so on. And that's shared with leukemia as well as aplastic anemia. But then with leukemia, it's very similar. Your platelet counts are very low. Aplastic anemia, your platelet counts are very low. The actual only difference between leukemia and aplastic anemia is that in the bone marrow, with leukemia, your bone marrow has a lot of basically cancerous cells. So it's like overcrowded. And that's why chemotherapy is a possible solution, where the radiation is removing those cancerous cells. With aplastic anemia, your bone marrow isn't making blood cells. So it's almost like your bone marrow is empty. So the treatment's very, very different, even though it presents the very similar symptoms because the bone marrow is compromised. So yeah, with common anemia, you don't have any bone marrow, red blood cell, or platelet complications. It's just the red blood cell count is low. But with aplastic anemia and leukemia share that bone marrow complication.
It's a good, with regards, I want to say thank you for sharing the description and how it affects the body with regard to aplastic anemia. In terms of yourself, Samantha, I'm looking down because you're down at the screen. Are you in full health now?
Yes, so it's an interesting question to answer. And as it stands, there's no cure for severe acute aplastic anemia. But in terms of my health, I would say I am in full health. I am in good health. I can, go about my daily routine just like any other individual my age, and I don't have to worry about, getting a cut, for example. Something like that won't land me in the hospital in critical condition.
Because I remember when we met last year, I can't remember last year, what was it, September or something, October? And we were having a discussion about, well, I was listening to your wonderful, inspiring family story, and I was really moved. And the reason why I was moved was about the start, how you guys start and dealt with this illness together as a family. And then how you have turned it around in terms of the educational attainment that you all have, 5 degrees, BAs and 2 masters. I mean, amazing. Antoinette, I mean, when people hear, do you know what I mean? Like your peers hear that your family has like 5 degrees and 2 masters, what are the type of things that you're hearing?
Sometimes people will say, "Oh wow, you come from like a really smart family," or like, "Oh, you did really academically demanding degrees." And for me, sometimes I feel a little bit surprised that they are surprised because to me it's just the norm. Growing up, I always knew I was going to do something within academia, something of merit and something that could propel me as I get older in my 20s, my 30s for like a career. So people seem surprised by it, but to me, it's just simply the norm.
I like that it's simply the norm. And I'm going to go to Clive Anthony, and I also want to hear from Samantha as well. I mean, looking back on how your parents are, Jamaican parents, they don't play when it comes to education. Yeah. My mum didn't play either. Okay, nor did my dad. All right. So growing up, how did what role did education play in terms of your family's success? I want to hear from Clive Anthony and Samantha.
I would say it was a very central, it played a very central role. I will say, as you'll read in the book, I was lied to and was told that, without education, if I did not do my homework, I would live under a bridge. So, I mean, I think it was an effective motivator, as you can see now. And I think environment also played a really important role, just being surrounded by different schools or extracurriculars that prioritize education. So when Antoinette says it feels like the norm, it's because of the environment that our parents put us in, where it felt normal or expected. So there's some sort of social pressure, like healthy peer pressure to focus on education.
Samantha, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what my brother said. And in addition to that, um, the environment that our parents created for us also helped us to succeed in academia. At one of our family homes, and this is also outlined in our book, our parents ensured that they dedicated one room as the library for us to study in. So this library was on the second floor. It was far removed from any distractions such as the kitchen, the TV, anywhere where lots of noise or people would gather to speak. It was a closed room, and we had a nice wooden desk in there with some wooden chairs and two bookshelves. And that is where my siblings and I did our homework for years and years and years. We would sit around the wooden table. We would do our homework, sometimes, bothering each other here and there, but also we were there to help each other if we needed help. And it was great, especially having my brother. He was older than us. He was able to help us, with our math homework, our English homework, our science homework, because he had already completed those grades before us. So that environment just kind of fostered a positive reaction to doing your homework. It wasn't something that we shied away from. We enjoyed our time studying together in the library.
Awesome. Is that the truth, Antoinette?
I
Is
would
that
say
you
so.
enjoyed the time studying together?
I'd say so.
Yeah, nice.
Other than studying, Club Anthony would also be playing music, which I personally feel helped expand our musical knowledge of different genres and artists. So it was a very nice, cozy setting, kind of akin to like a cafe where people sit down. There's like light music playing in the background. So it was that kind of vibe.
Mm. Can you remember, if you go back to a memory, can you remember a particular song that you used to listen to while studying?
Yeah, I had Beethoven's string quartet. I don't remember the artist or the group that was doing it, but we would listen to a lot of those string quartets.
Okay, amazing. Amazing. Lovely, 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 lovely. It's amazing. You guys definitely are a powerhouse family. And I'm even going back to the book now, going back to the book. So my question is, why do you believe it's never too late sometimes? And this is a question for Yvonne.
Or I think it's never too late sometimes. Cleveland actually does do a very good explanation of this. He brought out a very good analogy. So I'm going to leave that space to him because he will do a very good job tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for she's being shy at this moment. We believe that it's never too late. And Clive Anthony, he and I talk about the title of the book. We had an appointment for the following Saturday, 2 or 3 days away was Saturday, to see one of the best pediatricians in the city to figure out why, when Yvonne is combing Samantha's hair, there's blood on Yvonne's hand. Why is Samantha's head bleeding? Why are there little dots, red dots, all over Samantha's body? Didn't seem too serious. But at that junction, when she heard that voice saying Samantha is sick and the clock is ticking, she felt that, hey, you know what? It's not too late for me to go get another opinion before I go see the best pediatrician there is. It was never too late that even in my 40s, I went back to university to get my first undergrad degree. I did that in my 40s. My late 40s, I got my MBA, my master's degree in my early 50s. It wasn't too late for Yvonne to go back to school in her late 40s, I think, to add to her diploma and obtain a bachelor's in sociology that she's now leveraging to run her business. So the title of the book is One of Hope.
Amazing. Samantha, why should we buy the book?
Well, this book, it has a pretty strong theme of positivity. And that's personally something that I like to tell myself. And that's something I go through life with, just thinking positively. Because once you have that mind frame going into, a new job, school, or facing challenges, you're already setting yourself up for success because you've already knocked away, any negative thoughts, any fears that might be holding you back. And I just think through reading this book, you'll see that positivity is one of the themes that helped my parents push through this and stay strong.
I want to end with this key, because we were speaking about it, isn't it, about the key takeaways. And with regards to long story short, and long story short is about resilience, highlighting how people have navigated life twists and turns like yourself. So I would like each family member to share one word for our audience to remember about your family's long story short.
As I've said earlier, perseverance. That's my one word, perseverance.
Perhaps I'll continue. Determination. Antoinette?
I'll go with unity. So make sure that you're united on a front. So in regards to my parents, they were united in making sure that not only they got the correct medication and help for Samantha, but that also my brother and I wouldn't be affected by the diagnosis. So even if you're not partnered with anyone, have a united front with those who are in your circle, in your space.
And to repeat my word, that is positivity. That's the one word I would like our readers to take away from this book.
I have two words. I'm going to say encouragement and environment.
Why environment?
I think it's really like almost piggybacking off of unity, it's really important to have people around you that can support and give you that positivity and give you that hope while you may not have it in those moments. The analogy I keep thinking about is, with a baby learning how to walk and they're going to fall, but then everyone around them is like cheering them on, which might be a ridiculous experience for a baby. You're in pain and you are not walking. But, over time, like everyone else around you knows that, one day you're going to run. And so they're encouraging you, even though, you're still falling or whatever it is, to continue to try. And I think that, we all know how to walk and run now, but having that community still pushing you on in other areas of your life where you're learning to walk can help you actually make progress and succeed. So that's why I say environment.
Very well said. Very, very well said. And I fully am in agreement with that, having that unity, I understand when you're talking about the environment, having that support to cheer you on, having that support to encourage, do you know what I mean? Having that support to provide a positive environment. Your family is absolutely amazing. I'm so honored and proud that you have given me an opportunity to share your story on the Long Story Short podcast platform. And I wish you all the best with your book. And as I said before, I want it to become a #1 bestseller, and for you to be able to continually share the severity of this diagnosis, the severity of aplastic anemia to the world and to bring more awareness about it. But obviously, on the other side is also to show how strong and wonderful that you guys are as a family, and that throughout any twists and turns in life, you're able to soar and to continue on, and strength to strength to strength that you guys shall soar. So thank you so much for sharing your story on the Long Story Short platform today. Thank you.